Well, folks, it looks like that upcoming Blade movie is never going to see the light of day, and nobody saw that coming. Hey y'all, SnarkyJay cosplay here. So this week we got the news that the upcoming Marvel project Blade has been delayed indefinitely. We were supposed to see a release in November of 2025, but instead a new Predator movie has taken that slot, and the Blade movie has pretty much disappeared from Marvel's entire release schedule. They haven't given us any reasons as to why specifically this has been pushed back, or when it's even getting pushed to, and we've spoken quite a bit about this, but for the most part, things that get delayed indefinitely, it's not happening. Now, Blade, despite being beloved as a sort of cult classic, isn't really among the new audience for Marvel, but when we think about it, Blade was technically the first Marvel movie to really make it big. Even though it wasn't part of the MCU, it kind of is now, being that we actually got Wesley Snipes in Deadpool and Wolverine, but the timelines get confusing. We're not even gonna try and work that out here. The point is that Blade is not just one of those really well-known superhero movies, but they're also a set of movies stamped by the time they were released in, and they're cult classics. Blade is still a big f***ing deal, and that's why so many people lost it during his cameo in Deadpool and Wolverine this year. So history-wise, there are 3 Blade movies, all made between the years of 1998 and 2004. They were released by New Line Cinema, who owned the rights to Blade and Blade projects. Marvel supposedly acquired those rights in 2012. They have literally been holding on to the rights to Blade for 12 years now. But it took them forever to start writing. They really didn't start working on it dedicatedly until 2019, and since 2019 they have cycled through 2 different directors, and 6 different writers have been attached to this project. Let's go through them, shall we? Initially, Stacey Osei Kuffour was hired to write the project in 2021, and she brought on Bassam Tariq to direct the film. Now, in case Stacey's name isn't familiar to you, she's a playwright and an actress, but she's also well known for her work on Watchmen. That version of Blade was scheduled to start filming in November of 2022. And had that worked out, we would have seen it in November of 2023. But everything came to a standstill when director Bassam Tariq left the project. Now, according to Marvel, it was just scheduling delays that led to him leaving. The Hollywood Reporter, however, says that Tariq left due to creative differences. We're gonna get into what those creative differences were in just a few minutes, but let's keep going. Beau DeMaio was also supposedly attached as a screenwriter quite briefly in 2022. If that name sounds familiar to you, he's the guy that wrote most of X-Men 97 and got wrapped up in sexual misconduct allegations and got fired and lost his writing credits for everything he did on X-Men 97. He's currently embroiled in some drama with Marvel that hasn't been updated, but I'm sure if you subscribe to his OnlyFans, you might be able to hear what he has to say. Right after Tariq left as director, Yann Demange joined as the director, with Michael Starbury reworking the script. Then they got a second writer to help with that one. Nick Pizzolatto got attached to the project in April of 2023. Then, in November of 2023, we got the news that the entire Blade project was being rewritten from scratch by a guy with the name Michael Green. Now here is where things really get messy. The star of the film, pretty much from its conception, was never going to be Wesley Snipes again. It was always set to be Mahershala Ali. And at this point, in November of 2023, he supposedly was so fed up with this shit, he was allegedly ready to depart because of script issues. Of course, these script issues tie into those creative differences. What are those creative differences? Because we've talked about Marvel's weird choices with scripts and things lately, and here is what a report by Variety had to say. The story had morphed into a narrative led by women and filled with life lessons, with the titular character relegated to the 4th lead. Briefly, I will let you know that as recently as June of this year, Marvel hired yet another writer, Eric Pearson, who had already finished scripts for films like Thunderbolts and the Fantastic Four. Now I want to talk a little bit more about those creative differences. The thing with Marvel lately is that Marvel does not write the story about the character. They stuff the character to fit whatever story they want to tell. Whatever agenda, whatever message, whatever thing they want to push this week, they're going to essentially use that story as a cookie cutter in the dough of your character's legacy and remove them from that dough in this shape that they don't belong in, and they will serve it to you and expect you to like it. A Blade film that gets turned into a narrative led by women filled with life lessons. I mean, narratives led by women and filled with life lessons, that's basically a fucking Hallmark movie. You're gonna turn Blade into a Hallmark movie? Of course it's not gonna work. And somebody like Mahershala Ali, who is incredibly talented, a fantastic actor, very dedicated to every role that I've ever seen him in, there's no fucking way that guy is gonna tie his name to not just the Blade role, which is already so beloved, and everybody really respects what Wesley Snipes did with the character, but now they're gonna make him the fourth lead in his own film. That's what Marvel continues to do. They sideline beloved characters, especially beloved male characters, in favor of putting female characters on a pedestal. And this is coming from somebody who loves female characters. I would love nothing more than a well-written female solo superhero film. I wanted to like Captain Marvel. I wanted to like the Marvels. I wanted to love Wonder Woman, and I loved the first Wonder Woman, and I was so disappointed by the second one. I have no reason to not want to see women succeed in these spaces, but the problem is that they cannot succeed and they cannot be put on a pedestal to the detriment of beloved male characters for the sake of telling a story or delivering an agenda. It's not how that works. And it's obvious that these issues are what plagued Blade from the very start. The fact of the matter is that something got lost in the plot. Blade himself got lost in the shuffle along the way. And another thing that this film doesn't have going for it is that supposedly the budget that Marvel was working with, they wanted to make it for pretty much right around $100 million. That was the entire budget for this film. And while $100 million in like 1995 probably seemed like a lot of movie, and when you compare it to the budgets of the original Blade movies, the budget for the first Blade movie was only $45 million, so we're talking more than double, but we're also 20 some odd years later, so these movies now cost more money. When you look at overinflated budgets for all of these Marvel films, the budget for the first Captain Marvel was $152 million, for instance. And if we want to talk more recently and not a female-led movie, then Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was a more recent movie than Captain Marvel, and it had a production budget of $326 million. So they're wanting to make Blade for a third of that. A film about a character who definitely could use a big budget, definitely would benefit from a bigger budget, and yet they're looking to make a Blade movie with basically pennies on the dollar for what Marvel movies usually cost, and they're also looking to change the story completely. It's no wonder that anybody with any sense walks away from this project. I don't blame somebody like Mahershala Ali for threatening to walk away from this, and to be honest, with everything I've learned about the drama surrounding this Blade movie, I hope it never sees the light of day, because I can't imagine what a poorly stitched together, ridiculously agendized fucking disaster we would get on the big screen. And it would honestly serve only to tarnish the legacy of Wesley Snipes' version of the character. But ironically, the whole time I was making this video and the whole time I was thinking about this, the only thing that came to mind was this line.
There's only been one Blade. There's only ever gonna be one Blade.
And right now, it seems to be ringing more true than ever. And that's all from me. I've been SnarkyJay. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. For more SnarkyJay, be sure to check me out on Instagram. And if you'd like to support me, this channel, and my content creation, do check out and consider subscribing to my Patreon for exclusive photo shoot sets and cosplay content. I will add links to all of those in the description below. And let me know your thoughts on Blade being delayed indefinitely in the comments below.